newest episode of the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast. I'm Austin. I'm a knockout. Watch a lot of wrestling.
I'm David. I'm a noob. I haven't watched nearly as much wrestling. And the wrestling we are going to watch today, I especially haven't not watched much of. I could have phrased that better, but you know what I'm trying to get at.
Great phrasing, but yes, we are entering a brand new territory. We have watched non-WWE stuff before. Every month or so, we do a thing of Lucha Underground, and we did AEW way back at the beginning of this podcast. But we've never really done an extensive a arc, so to speak, of another company. I don't really count Lucha Underground as in that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So this is new for us.
Yes. Oh, this is exciting.
And what we're gonna do is we are going to cover the rise of WCW, WWE's greatest rival. And as I told David, you know, there's only, when you're talking about the rise of WCW and the fall, but also the rise, you really have to start with the NWO, the New World Order.
That part I do know. I know what that stands for. It's been name dropped about a zillion damn times on this show.
Yeah, so you know we've talked around the history of WCW as a way to kind of give context to WWE's history. So, and I figure I'll go ahead and kind of review how WCW got to the point that it's at in 1996. And I kind of have to go start back at the territory days. I swear I'm going to be as quick as possible on this history. But so,
I'm in the wrestling business.
Yeah, we will do that. We'll get there.
Yay!
So in the territory era, you had the National Wrestling Alliance, an oligopoly of a bunch of regional wrestling promotions agreeing to kind of stay out of each other's territories, share talent, share champions in some cases, all make money together as opposed to being direct competition to each other. And while they would always, you know, be looking to push into each other's territories to get that a little bit of extra money themselves, in general, they stayed out of each other's way. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah,
David?
The Mafia, yeah.
Okay, just make sure you're still there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you have that, and then WWE, which at this point was more of it wasn't a part of the NWA. It goes back and forth on that kind of thing historically, but when Vince McMahon Jr. was in charge, they weren't in the NWA. But before Vince had taken over, even when they weren't in the NWA, they always respected the NWA boundaries. Like, they didn't try to encroach on other people's territory. They stayed in the American Northeast, the New York, Boston, Baltimore market.
That's slightly surprising. McMahon Jr. respected boundaries. Okay, I was gonna say McMahon Jr. and respecting boundaries does not quite go together.
No, Vince McMahon Sr. is the one who, when he was in charge, he always respected the NWA boundaries. McMahon Jr., he saw an opportunity to go national, and he, in his mind, who cares about your stupid, dumb boundaries? Your little made-up borders that says you can't go any farther than here. Like, he didn't respect them. He didn't care. He wanted to make his company the first major national wrestling organization in America.
Based, Vince McMahon says borderless society.
You
heard it here first, folks.
Vince McMahon says, why an oligopoly when a monopoly will do just fine?
True.
Yeah, so, and basically, you know, Vince was aggressive in his takeover of the territories, and he was generally successful at it. He didn't have a whole lot of pitfalls, mostly because I've always looked at it as like, you know, he comes from a place of having a lot of resources. I mean, his home base was New York City. You know, he's going to have a lot of resources there. He was smart and made the right connections with MTV, NBC, Mr. T, Cyndi Lauper. You know the story here of kind of being able to create something that the mainstream audience could identify with better and get his wrestling out there.
This is so off topic. It still blows my mind that Cyndi Lauper is like a somewhat major player in like the history of contemporary pro wrestling.
Yeah. As I've probably mentioned before, her dad in the video "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" was wrestling manager Captain Lou Albano. That was kind of her connection into the wrestling, was through Captain Lou.
That's so wholesome. Anyway.
Yeah, but anyway, Vince, again, he many of the territories he kind of mows over because the fact of the matter is not everyone was well equipped to deal with. Here comes WWF with all their money and all their talent that they're buying up, coming to take over your territory. Not everyone was well equipped to deal with that. But a couple of places were. And this brings me to Jim Crockett Promotions. Jim Crockett Promotions was owned by, you guessed it, Jim Crockett. And they were basically the American South. Their home base, so to speak, was traditionally like North Carolina down to Georgia, if you want to think about their regional area. And what they became WWF's greatest rival, because basically they had Ric Flair. I feel like I don't need to tell very many people in this audience, a wrestling fan, or know who Ric Flair is.
Big boy.
He is one of the all-time great wrestlers. He became super popular. He was the Hulk Hogan for people outside of WWF. He was the Hulk Hogan of everywhere else. And he made waves being an amazing wrestler and a character, and the evil heel NWA champion who you just wanted to see get beat, but he always managed to figure out how to sneak out of there with the title. And so it basically came down. Basically, what happened is that like when it comes to the territorial system, it almost became a war on two fronts. Of you got the WWF from the out externally, come rolling on in to take all your land.
All your land belong to us.
But at the same time, in an attempt to fight the WWF, the NWA, even though not every territory was equally large or power or money making, they all had relatively equal power. That was the point. It wasn't there wasn't a functional hierarchy, or at least there tried not to be. But as times got more desperate, JCP, with being one of the few territories, if not arguably the only territory that had the talent to be able to go up against WWF, kind of usurped power within the NWA and kind of helped collapse the system. When it kind of stopped being a collaborative group and it kind of became JCP and everyone else, I guess. JCP became synonymous with the NWA brand as a whole. And that kind of facilitated the collapse. However, despite JCP's best efforts, and they had a hell of efforts, they had a hell of effort to get to fight WWF. They kind of went at it from the more wrestling oriented perspective, as opposed to WWE's kind of entertainment kind of look at it. But ultimately, the problem was JCP just couldn't get the money. Like, they just could not afford to really expand as hard as they needed to expand. Like, they were trying to...
like the biggest thing? Despite being like the biggest thing?
They were the biggest territory, yeah, but they still didn't have the resources to be able to like make a nationwide expansion in the same way that WWF did. And I think part of that is they kind of had to move too quickly. They needed to move fast to catch up, and they just didn't have the money to kind of do that. The WWF was a lot more controlled. It was a lot more, and obviously he has the national televised deals, but in terms of like becoming live event tour, making each part of the country part of the tour, it was a lot more like strategic and piece by piece, as opposed to just being like, well, we're in New York now, but suddenly we're in California.
Yeah.
But JCP, to compete, tried to do that. Tried to skip way to the end, and they just didn't have the money. They were stretched too thin. But then here comes Ted Turner to the rescue. So Ted Turner, you might have heard of him. He kind of was a billionaire media mogul who's responsible for the Turner network of TV, TNT, the TBS Superstation, CNN, that stuff. And he had always had a great respect for wrestling. Depending on who you ask, it was purely financial or he was legitimately a fan. But either way, he recognized that a big reason why the TBS Superstation took off was because of the ratings he got from airing Georgia. At the time, it was called Georgia Championship Wrestling before they rebranded to Jim Crockett Promotions. So he had kind of a great respect for that wrestling company. And when he saw they were in financial straits, he saw an opportunity to take over the company itself and keep pro wrestling under his direct watch. Which, of course, led to the famous supposed conversation about the day that Ted Turner bought then became WCW. He rebranded it as World Championship Wrestling. The day he bought WCW, he calls Vince McMahon, who there's a past relationship there that I don't want to go back into quite. I have enough to talk about, but he calls up Vince and he supposedly says, well, Vince, I'm in the wrestling business. And
wait. Can I do it? Can I do it?
Like, I have to amend the quote because I didn't get all of the quote last time.
Oh, okay.
Is Vince goes, well, that's great, Ted, but we're in different businesses. And Ted is kind of confused. He's like, well, what do you mean? And Vince goes, well, you're in the wrestling business and I'm in the entertainment business.
Oh, I hope. I cannot express enough how deeply I hope that that's a true quote, because if so, that is the single most profound thing that Vincent K. McMahon has ever said in his entire fucking life.
I agree. I desperately want it to be a real quote, but again, I can't confirm that it's real.
Yeah.
So WCW, from it was, I believe, 1989, sounds about right to me, when Ted Turner took over, to about 1994 was a shit show. First problem, WCW was bleeding money. They struggled a lot to, they still wanted to be a national brand on par with the WWF. And even with Ted Turner's money, they were struggling to make the money necessary to, become that top brand. And that would and WCW can't make money is kind of a problem consistent with WCW's whole history. They pretty much only ever made money during a couple of years when they were at their absolute peak.
Yeah, when for the eagle-eared or I guess rabbit-eared, I don't know, listeners of our show, this was that's when WWF was in the new generation, and and WCW surpassed them, and it took until Stone Cold to kind of get that honor back.
Yeah, so during that vaunted 83 weeks, WCW was making money hand over fist finally. But so you have that problem. The second problem is you didn't have the right guy running. I'm going to save that for last to segue into the next part. The second problem is nobody at Turner wanted wrestling except Ted Turner. In the minds of every other Turner member of the Turner brass, wrestling is this trashy show for low income people, low income idiots, and you can't make it. And we want, especially TNT and TBS, we're especially like, we want to be more prestigious. We want to be seen as like premium channels for affluent adults, and wrestling flew in the face of that idea in their minds, and it became a yearly, every year when they're having their board meeting talking about the past year and the upcoming year, every year someone would pitch, hey, we got someone willing to buy WCW, we should sell. And Ted Turner would be like, nope.
This is my pet project, damn it.
Yeah, and I've been reading Nitro by Guy Evans. Gonna go ahead and plug that book because it's a fantastic resource into what was going on at WCW and Turner Broadcasting at this time, and the history of like where everything kind of fell apart, how everything rose and how everything fell. And the book portrays Ted Turner as a bit of someone who intentionally tries to go against the grain. And he kind of like took personal effect. He kind of saw when everyone else was saying, get rid of WCW, it's bad for the brand, TM. Ted Turner took that as a challenge that we're going to keep it because that's the kind of personality he had. He saw WCW as similar to how everybody is. The book uses this comparison of, they talked about how when he was first trying to launch CNN, everybody told him, really, man, 24-hour news station, who's going to watch that? How's that going to be successful? That's too much news. Obviously, CNN was a massive success. And so Ted Turner came to this idea that like his gut was the smartest thing here. And his gut says that WCW is TV that belongs at Turner, and that's where it's going to stay. And so there was this constant friction between Ted Turner and everybody else at Turner over this. And ultimately, that's kind of what led to WCW's demise, is that Ted Turner would have the media mergers in the late 90s with Time Warner and AOL. Great times. Yeah. Very successful AOL.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And as those mergers happen, Ted Turner obviously becomes less powerful, less able to just kind of be like my way or the highway, pal. And so once it stopped being solely Ted Turner's call, WCW quickly lost favor, and it kind of became a inevitability that it was going to get cut. Because that attitude that WCW is too trashy for our network never went away.
Well, we see this time and again with a lot of different things. You get heads of entertainment networks, of TV networks, whatever, who have like their special thing that they want to push, and they try so hard, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. Ted Turner, I can understand why he was so confident in his abilities to do this here, but like with the power of retrospect, just from hearing this right now, it's clear he was fighting an uphill battle, especially when the main competition was Vince McMahon.
Yeah, like I can talk more about Deep That if I want to, but the book goes to a lot of effort to talk about how this is a good segue into my third point, is that institutionally, WCW was a fucking mess on an organizational level in a way that the WWF just isn't, even on their worst days, even in the new generation. WWF is a machine of marketing and sales that WCW never knew how to do. And so the third major problem for WCW going to this point was the right man in charge, aka they never had one. It was from 1989 to 1994. It was kind of WCW was a revolving door of one of two personality types. It was either big professional wrestling people like Dusty Rhodes or Cowboy Bill Watts, who had no ability, who could do the wrestling stuff pretty well, but had no ability to endear themselves to Turner brass. They didn't know how to deal with the business people, the suits, as it were. They would put in a executive. The most famous is Jim Herd, who was a executive at Pizza Hut before he took over at WCW. And sure, is the executive types. They knew how to, look respectable in the eyes of the rest of Turner media, but they also had no goddamn clue about how to actually run a wrestling company.
Yeah, why are we pulling a Pizza Hut exec exactly?
Because it's about the perception that, WCW is a business. So we need a businessman who knows business to run this thing. We don't need these wrestling people are idiots who don't know what the hell they're talking about or what they don't know business. They're stupid redneck wrestlers.
Oh my!
We need a respectable businessman in charge here.
Oh God. Again, assuming it's true, that makes the we're in the entertainment business line from McMahon all the more prescient from from a standpoint of they weren't prepping to run like an entertainment company.
Yeah, like there was this never-ending culture clash between a Southern wrestling company and a multi-billion-dollar media corporation.
Yep.
There was just this. It never ended, and it was the ultimate downfall. But in late '94, I want to say, is '94 or '95? No, it's '94. This happened. Is Ted Turner? He found the golden he found the perfect person to run this stupid company. Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff is kind of he was a career kind of hustler. He did a lot of stuff in sale. He had a lot of different kind of things as part of his career. He just bounced around a lot, constantly trying to kind of like make better for himself and kind of find the right niche for him to become successful. And in doing so, he had a lot of ability as an entrepreneur. He had a lot of, I guess, experience as an entrepreneur and kind of a salesperson. And he was able to and in that way, he was able to endear himself to Turner Brass. But at the same time, he had been involved in wrestling. He had a job working at the AWA, the American Wrestling Association, in the late 80s, early 90s. That was a company that was dying at the time, to be honest. But, it still gave him this experience in wrestling, and it gave him this understanding about wrestling that also allowed him to be, like the wrestling people liked him too. So you found the perfect person who can play both sides. And not surprisingly, he would end up being the most successful president, the executive vice president of WCW ever had.
Naturally.
Yeah, and so he took over in '94. He made a lot of big moves to cut costs, but at the same time, he was upset. He knew that what he needed to do is he needed to refresh the look and the feel and the roster. He needed to make it feel like a big time wrestling company. That's what he viewed to be the main problem, is that they wanted to go national, but they still felt like a Southern wrestling company. We need to have a greater, broader appeal. And that's why one of his first big moves was to sign Hulk Hogan. In June of 1994, at this point, Hulk Hogan is floundering as a movie star.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
And if Eric Bischoff manages to get a conversation with him, and he's able to convince Hogan to come back to wrestling and sign with WCW. And so that was a big move to kind of legitimize WCW in the eyes of a larger public. Like, that Hulk Hogan guy is in WCW. They must be a big deal.
Okay. So we're just hopping right on, getting the nostalgia act to come in and save the company in a way.
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
WCW.
That historically goes well.
It's probably not quite the most fair assessment of WCW. It's at the very least it's not seeing the whole picture, but WCW was really good about kind of throwing around Ted Turner's money to sign these big names to get people, established stars, to get people to pay attention to WCW. He signs Hogan. He signs Savage. He signs a bunch of Hogan's friends from the 80s. And suddenly they kind of become the top stars in the company, along with guys that were already there, like the Ric Flairs. And and he and suddenly WCW has a lot more mainstream buzz. Hogan almost immediately became WCW champion, and thus begins the friction between Hogan and the WCW faithful, which I'll get more into that a couple of episodes from now when we talk about Hogan's heel turn more. Okay. But yeah, they had positioned themselves pretty strongly, and then Ted Turner, in one of his, once again trying to prove that everyone else is wrong but I'm right moves, insists that WCW will have a live show on Monday night, a live show in prime time.
Wait, did they not get that up until that point?
No.
Oh.
The show we are going to watch tonight, WCW Monday Nitro, debuted in September of 1995.
Oh shit! Oh,
up to that point, their signature time frame would have been Saturday nights at 6:05. Would have been the signature WCW time slot.
So this is like momentous. What we're gonna watch.
Mm-hmm.
Whew. Ooh, I'm excited.
And there was a lot of fears within the industry, what kind of audiences they're going to have. Because remember, this is 1995. WWF's hitting rock bottom and seemingly just keep going further. 95 is like, what we've seen in 94? What if it was like twice as bad? That's 95. Like, they're losing money badly. They're losing audience. It's like, what kind of audience is WCW going to have? What's a second wrestling show? I thought they were just going to split the audiences, right?
Yeah.
But as it turns out, WCW tapped into an audience that WWF just didn't have. And we talked a little bit about it when we talked about how Monday Night Raw beat Nitro, but it wasn't it wasn't a zero-sum game. The audience just got bigger on one side.
Oh yeah.
WCW wasn't necessarily pulling viewers away from Monday Night Raw, though they were also doing that. But they were also getting an audience that just didn't want to watch Raw.
So was this coming from like leaning into the we appeal to rednecks thing, or what? Like where exactly? Because I know we talked about it a little bit, but I'm still not like 100% on where did that audience like kind of spring from.
Well, WCW, what got them successful was Eric Bischoff was convinced that that the audience to pitch to wasn't children and families. That's WWF's thing. We're going to pitch to the 18 to 34 crowd. That's who we're going to play to.
Oh.
He wanted his wrestling show to be a little grittier, a little more adult, not like R-rated adult or anything, but a little more edgy.
So almost like the PG-13 mentality then.
Yeah, a little more realistic in his eyes. He wanted to differentiate himself from what WWF was doing, and he was very successful at it. And that kind of comes into the NWO thing, which there's that history lesson went a little longer than I hoped, but I think I did a good enough job of kind of explaining how WCW got here. So now let's talk about 96 in particular. I watched their most recent pay-per-view, Slamboree. I kept reading that and just being like, Slamboree, welcome to the Jamboree. And so what the gimmick of Slamboree 96 was the Lethal Lottery Tournament. The Lethal Lottery Tournament is an occasionally used tournament where they have a random draw and a bunch of guys get thrown into tag teams randomly, and they have a tournament against each other, and then the last 8 wrestlers have one big match against each other, and the winner becomes the Lord of the Ring and gets a shot at the WCW title.
Slamboree. That's all I gotta say. Slamboree.
It's a little bit of a hokey gimmick, and I didn't love it, but it does give me a good excuse to talk about most of the WCW mid cards. So,
hey,
let's roll into it. Again, I used a lot of air quotes when describing random because, as you would guess, it's still fixed. So you get a lot of situations where, like, tag teams are split up and, oh no, they have to face each other. Or I have to tag team with my bitter rival. You know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Stuff that randomly that's not going to happen. But, you know, we're trying to tell story. We're trying to push storylines here. We're not literally going to be random. That's stupid. David, lost you there for a second. Yep, sorry, folks. Just gonna. Be right. Okay, we're back. Anyway, Slamboree, leave the lottery. The randomness is bullshit, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the first match was Road Warrior Animal and Booker T versus Road Warrior Hawk and Lex Luger. What do you know? Look at that. Tag teams having to face each other. Road Warriors, you know them. Don't gotta explain them.
Yeah, they do the bicycling.
Mm-hmm. Booker T, you know him, but right now he is in a tag team with his brother Stevie Ray. They're Harlem Heat, sucker.
Wait, are they like actual IRL brothers?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're kind of like really athletic black dudes. I don't have a better word for it. They're not important enough to get like serious character development or anything.
I mean, Booker T's charismatic as hell, so I just enjoy him.
He makes it work. And then Lex Luger. Oh, I have so much to say about him, but I'll wait till we get talking about Luger. Yes, our favorite All-American hero,
America boy,
is here in WCW.
Why? Life is a never-ending torture wheel.
He's doing a solid storyline with the Stinger right now. So, but we'll wait till we get to Sting.
Wait, is that face paint boy Sting?
Yes, face paint boy.
Nice move. Okay.
Yes. Funny enough, Lex Luger is WCW TV champion. That's their third string belt. Didn't know that because they haven't mentioned it on Slamboree or in the last episode of Nitro I watched. So it's like, I didn't even know that.
Honestly, good. Get dicked on Luger.
Yes, anyway, they fought to a double count out because they were just too busy trying to punch each other to win. It's kind of dumb, but whatever.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the Public Enemy. They're a real tag team, and they randomly got the tag team together. So the Public Enemy is kind of like, we keep having these characters that are like white dudes who are kind of hip-hop before gangster rap really blew up, and that became weird. I don't know enough about them to give you more details than that. I'll just say that their names are Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge, and they kind of look about how you imagine they are if that's their names.
Oh.
They were ECW stalwarts. They were famous for putting people through tables, but then,
what
WCW was offering money, and ECW doesn't pay people.
What is it with pro wrestling and making characters out of lame rappers? I don't understand. Why is this such a running motif across the fucking board?
Hey, now they don't rap.
Wait, I thought you said they were rappers.
No, they're just like hip hop enthusiasts.
Oh, hip hop enthusiasts. Pardon me.
Yeah, and they're taking on. Yay! It's discourse time, David, because they're taking on Chris Benoit and the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! 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 No!
We prepped for this, but let's go ahead and talk about it.
Oh Jesus!
Chris Benoit, for the people who don't know, and we do have people here who don't watch wrestling, so they might not know about this. So Chris Benoit was a super popular wrestler of the mid '90s to the mid 2000s. But due to one weekend in 2007, he no-showed a WWE pay-per-view, and it later was revealed that he killed his wife, Nancy Benoit, who's also a wrestler on this show, his young son, I believe his name is Chris, and then he killed himself.
The son's name is Daniel.
Oh, Daniel, you're right. Thank you. He does have a son named Chris, though. That's what I was confused.
Okay.
But his young son Daniel, and then himself over the course of the weekend. It's a very gruesome tale, and I don't really want to say the whole thing. But it is but for people trying to engage with Chris Benoit's work now, for a lot of people, it's tough because they grew up with Benoit, and so it's hard for them to reconcile the wrestler that they watched for years with the same person, with the person that he became.
Yeah.
As a murderer.
Yeah.
And I get that, but I am firmly in the camp of I can appreciate his work as being technically sound. He is one of the greatest technical wrestlers that we may have ever seen. But I can't get over the fact that he's a murderer.
Yeah, that's a pall that just hangs over. That'd be like for like me, if my wrestling fandom continues on, and down the line, all of a sudden like John Cena or CM Punk goes and does some shit like this. Like I can sympathize with like how emotionally difficult grappling with this is, but oh Jesus, the ultimate takeaway can't be anything but this is an awful person, and we never should be allowed to lose sight of that.
Yeah, and so my take on this for this podcast is we'll talk about it because it's hard to avoid his work. He was a very prolific wrestler for this decade of time, but I can't really provide any sort of solid analysis of his work from a critique standpoint. I just can't divorce art from artist enough to do that. And I will say that we are never ever going to do, we have these spotlight arcs. We are never going to do one on a Benoit storyline. So for this situation, him and the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan, his thing is that he is in a long-running feud with the Taskmaster because, and this is true, and this is a little bit of a funny story. Kevin Sullivan was the booker, and I think he is still the booker, the head writer of WCW at this time, and along with being a wrestler. And he wrote a storyline where his wife was then Nancy Sullivan, and known as Woman. The reason her name is like that is because the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan used to be in the 80s. He was an evil Satanist character, really cashing in on the satanic panic stuff. And Woman was his dutiful slave girl who was enamored by him.
Oh God! Oh, I love.
Anyway, and so the name Woman stuck even after he stopped doing Satanist stuff. It's kind of cool. Grandfathered our way into that name. Anyway, so he writes the storyline where she's wanting to leave him for Chris Benoit, and to make the storyline more realistic, kayfabe, he has Nancy start traveling with Chris to shows and stuff. And oopsie daisy, Nancy does actually start having an affair with Chris and leaves Kevin to be in a relationship with Chris Benoit.
IRL out of kayfabe?
Yes.
Yikes.
As the storyline goes, as the joke goes, Kevin Sullivan booked his own divorce because this only happened because he decided to write a storyline where his wife leaves him for Chris Benoit. Oh. And then it became real.
Oh God.
It's very funny. And if we were going to do a Chris Benoit story, I'd kind of want to do that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate on a number of levels.
That's rough, buddy.
Oh no, yeah, lot of rough, whole boy.
Anyway, so they're big beefing, but now they're stuck to be tag partners, and then they lose to the Public Enemy because they don't get along. The next match is Rick Steiner and the Booty Man. Versus Sergeant Craig Pittman and Scott Steiner. This is before Scott Steiner was a steroidy Magoo boy.
Oh.
Now he's just like a big boy hoss boy who is like, I was an amateur wrestler at Michigan, and also I can suplex you out of the ring because I'm that badass and strong.
Hey, from the mitten. Nice.
Yeah, and so that's what this tag team that him and Rick, like they're the Steiner brothers.
Wait. Is Steiner at this point still wearing chainmail?
Nah, he ain't got that
yet. Okay, carry on.
So they're in a tag team against each other. Sergeant Craig Pittman is a stereotypical USA military gimmick. It's exactly what you think it is. It's not any deeper than that. And the fucking Booty Man. Okay. So, Booty Man is Ed Leslie. He is Hulk Hogan's best friend, and Hulk Hogan has gotten Ed Leslie like 90% of the jobs he's ever had in pro wrestling. That feels like it's diminishing his talents because he is actually a decent wrestler, but he follows Hogan around. Kind of rode his coattails. I can't ignore that part. Anyway, he goes through a million bazillion characters. Right now, he is the Booty Man because he likes butts or something. It's like if Billy Gunn was played with less of an edge and more of like comedic, cartoony friendliness. It's weird.
That sounds like a family-friendly proto-Val Venus.
The best part about it is that his finishing move is the high knee.
I'm assuming that's a knee to the butt.
No, that's a knee to the face, but it's called a high knee. Get it? Because high knee.
Oh! Come on! Oh, pain. Nothing
and he's
pain.
with the Booty Babe. I'll get back to her later. They win. Next match, VK Wall Street and Jim Duggan versus the Blue Bloods, Lord Steven Regal and Squire David Taylor. The Blue Bloods are like stereotypical English snobby. They look like they came out of The Crown. They walked out of Netflix's The Crown. And they're all right. And then VK Wall Street is he's IRS, by the way.
Oh, I'm sensing a pattern.
But now he's subtweeting Vince McMahon. VK, Vincent Kennedy.
Oh.
Do you get it?
I think I get it. It's very subtle, but I think I get it.
Yeah, he's basically a stereotypical rich guy wrestler. And he hates Jim Duggan. Jim Duggan is a USA guy that says ho. He really has no other character depth to it. He is still insanely popular. I don't get it. I think he sucks. I'm sorry, fans of 80s wrestling. I hate Jim Duggan.
Oh man, now it's Austin with the spicy takes. Okay. Usually that's my job.
But they win the match despite the fact that they hate each other. Great. Then we get Dirty Dick Slater, who is kind of a he's like this grungy Southern bar fighter looking guy. That's the best way I can describe him to you. And he's managed by Colonel Robert Parker, Tennessee Lee in the WWF.
Oh.
Doing the exact same character.
Oh God! Wait! Is Tennessee Lee the Murica dude?
Now Tennessee Lee is the plantation looking motherfucker.
Oh, that
manages Jarrett.
Oh no! Oh yeah! Oh no! Oh Christ!
Please. Yes, he married Jeff Jarrett. And now he's managing Dirty Dick Slater.
Oh, God. Just keep the hits rolling, guys, with these gimmicks. Jesus.
And Earl Robert Eaton, who's one of the Blue Bloods, but got broken up from the group at this point.
Unfortunately.
And they beat Disco Inferno. He's what you think it is. He disco dances like a clown, and everybody kind of likes it.
Kind of being the operative word there.
And Alex Wright Das Wunderkind. He's part of the he's a German. That's his only character trait, and he's part of the Cruiserweight division. I'll talk more about them in a second. So they win that match. Then you got the Diamond Dallas Page, DDP. So let's talk about DDP for a second, because he's also one of the best. So his character was originally that he was a dirtbag rich guy who got rich off the lottery, and so he's a complete dirtbag. But he wasn't good to his wife, who left him for the booty man. She's the booty babe. And I just got to say, nothing shows more dignity for a character than his wife leaving him for a man who calls himself the booty man. Very dignified moment here. David, did lost your audio there. Yeah, David, I got no audio from you at all. Oh boy, we're doing great today. Okay.
Anyway,
lost his wife to the booty man. Very respectable.
Yeah, and extra dignified that she then took up the moniker of the booty babe.
Yes,
beautiful.
So apparently,
so much dignity.
Apparently, she got all the money in the divorce. So for a while there, DDP was like kayfabe homeless, but he's picked himself back up, and he's kind of actually on an upswing in a babyface kind of way. He's not there yet, but he's going to be like the biggest babyface in this company.
Oh,
or one of, I should say.
Oh, okay. Holmes man being a main character, that's cool and progressive, maybe. I don't know.
And then he was tag teaming with the Barbarian to defeat Meng. Those two are the holy shit, I forgot their tag team name. But anyway, they're kind of like just generic, like invincible monster dudes. There's not a whole lot to them.
Big beefy boys.
Big beefy boys, yes. And Meng teamed with Hugh Morris. Can you understand the joke there?
Oh, why? Oh, these. Oh, I know WCW is very loved. Off the bat, some of these gimmicks I know are just going to make me want to pull my teeth out.
Not great, no. Then you got Fire and Ice, Scott Norton and Ice Train. Them some big beefy boys who like throwing people around. They're great.
I do enjoy some big beefy boys who throw each other around.
They beat Big Bubba Rogers. That's the big boss man from WWE who was a cop that was a babyface. And now he's this, and he's basically the same thing. He's basically still doing the character, but now he's Big Bubba Rogers. Legally distinct.
Yeah.
And they beat Stevie Ray. There's Booker T's partner. And then the most interesting storyline beat of this first round of the Lethal Lottery was Ric Flair and Randy Savage were a tag team against Arn Anderson and Eddie Guerrero. Okay, first problem. Ric Flair and Arn Anderson are a team together as part of the Four Horsemen, along with Chris Benoit. And Brian Pillman was in the group, but by this point he left for WWE. So right now there's only three horsemen in a Four Horsemen name. Whatever. Not important.
Not important.
Right now, it's not important that there's only three horsemen, but they're called the Four Horsemen. That's not important.
Tengo preguntas.
What is important is that these days, Ric Flair is on a quest to fuck some wives because he comes out to the ring with Woman. Nancy Benoit, who is kayfabe established as Chris Benoit's wife, and he has sex with her, and Miss Elizabeth, who he stole from Randy. And apparently, Elizabeth got all the money in that divorce as well, so Ric Flair is currently blowing his way through all of Savage's money as well.
Does that make Chris Flair a gold digger?
So him and Savage are not on good terms. And so Flair and Anderson are like, fuck this. Even though I know we're on separate teams, but what we're going to team up and beat up the other two guys. So they even though they're on opposite teams of this tournament, they beat the shit out of Savage, and Eddie Guerrero, who's kind of like just kind of an up and coming babyface in the Cruiserweight division, is like, hey, bro, what are you doing? And so they beat him up, and Savage and Flair get the win. That's how that ends.
Nice.
But we'll come back to that. So then we have the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Dean Malenko versus Brad Armstrong. Dean Malenko is the Cruiserweight champion. He is the Iceman, the man of 1,000 holds. Basically, the idea is that he is like an emotionless, like always focused guy, and also he knows all the moves. And he will beat you because he knows all the moves.
All the moves? That's a big claim. That's a big claim. I expect
again,
to see.
He knows 1,000 holds, David. That's a lot of holds.
I expect. Wait. Okay, I can't tell if this is a like kayfabe meme or not.
I mean, kayfabe, he is the man of 1,000 holds, but he is legitimately an extremely talented technical wrestler.
Oh, okay, then cool. They're actually putting their money where their mouth is. I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
I expect to see some friggin' variety if they're going to claim this.
Yeah, and then Brad Armstrong is just kind of like he's kind of a generic guy. I don't really know. He doesn't really have much of a character. He's there to lose to Malenko and have a good match, but lose. Then, next round of the Lethal Lottery, Dirty Dick Slater and Earl Robert Eaton beat VK Wall Street and Jim Duggan. The Public Enemy beat Ric Flair and Randy Savage by forfeit, because what happened is that, they come back out and Randy Savage is like, I'm gonna get payback for that time you beat my ass in the last match.
Yeah.
So he took Ric Flair out of the equation, so there's basically nobody. So they just kind of win by forfeit on that one.
Yep. Okay, that's a way to go when you have like such huge stars. Okay.
But don't worry, Ric Flair is in a whole other feud, because not only is he's already got 2 wives, but he would like wife number 3, where as he is targeting the wife of Steve Mongo McMichael. Never mind that shit. Here comes Mongo. Mongo McMichael is a former football star who became a WCW commentator. He's kind of good, but he's transitioning into being a wrestler too. And so Ric Flair challenges Mongo to McMichael to a tag match with him and Anderson versus Mongo and a friend of his choice. And Flair tries to goad him into picking like some retired football player. That's the goal. But then Mongo's like, I already thought ahead of that, my friend, and here's my number 1 draft pick. And it is Kevin Green. I don't expect you to know who that is. But Kevin Green was basically an all-pro football player for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he just signed with the Carolina Panthers. You see that? Oh. And the point is, he was legitimately a then star NFL player. Like, he didn't get some old retired guy. He got like a currently active football player to get in the ring with him. Yeah. And so Flair was like, hey, whoa. I didn't say, I said retired players only. And everyone was like, no, you didn't. You said anybody.
That wording, you gotta be specific. If I've learned anything from bullshit deals on pro wrestling, it's that they'll catch you on technicalities every time. They have the receipts.
They do. Yeah, so they're building towards the next pay-per-view, a tag team match between the 4 Horsemen and Mongo McMichael and Kevin Green. Which will be interesting, I'm sure. Anyway, then the last match of the Lethal Lottery tournament, tag team tournament, DDP and the Barbarian beat Rick Steiner and the Booty Man. Thank God. And then we cut to the WCW United States Championship match between Conan and Jushin Thunder Liger. I was expecting more of a reaction on Conan.
Well,
we see him all the time.
I mean, yes, it's so, oh god, this is one of those things where kayfabe kind of fucks with my head, because like, Conan like is in Lucha Underground is such a dick.
And here he's a heroic Mexican wrestling hero.
Oh, he is? Because I was gonna say, are we gonna get
right
more
now.
of him being like clout hungry dick?
No, he's not a dick yet.
Okay, I can roll with that then. I'm also surprised to see him like. I guess I shouldn't be I'm surprised to see him like more stateside in like the 90s rather than in like South America doing lucha
he has
stuff.
a pretty big run in the United States in WCW.
Oh, really?
Yeah, very big run of his career.
I assumed he was one of those like pre-established like more like straight up luchador guys that they brought in for lucha. But all right, he's here, and if he's a heroic babyface, I will look past how much he annoys me in the kayfabe of not annoys me, like again, kayfabe makes me like legitimately dislike him because he's such a dick to Puma, but here I will look past that. All right, let's do it. Let's do some Conan.
Yeah, and Jushin Thunder Liger, also known as possibly the greatest light heavyweight in the history of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He is a legend, and he was one of the guys that WCW brought over. I haven't talked about it yet because I haven't really talked about the Cruiserweight division, but basically, Eric Bischoff's idea is what we're going to do is we're going to get all the best wrestlers we can find from Mexico and Japan and even the North America, all the smaller wrestlers, and we're going to have just this baller ass cruiserweight division letting them go wild and just show their insane athleticism, show people stuff they've never seen before on American TV. And Liger was a part of that. Rey Mysterio Jr. is a part of that. He's going to be on. I don't know if he's on this show, but he's going to be on in this arc.
That makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. So you're probably going to be exposed to quite a few luchadors.
I forget how old Rey Mysterio is.
Oh yeah, dude's ancient.
Yeah, and still talented as all shit because of course he is. Okay, that gets a reaction out of me because that makes me really happy. More Mysterio always, please.
No, but Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit, Jushin Liger, even Conan in a little bit, was just this idea of we're going to have this big influx of like foreign talent that are so good and better than anyone in the American audience has ever seen before. Mm-hmm. That was a big plan by Eric Bischoff to differentiate himself from the WWF.
Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Yes,
it is awesome.
Do good. Cruiserweights are the best. Yes. Oh God, I'm so okay. I'm excited now.
Yeah. All right. The end of the Lethal Lottery, they have the Battle Bowl match, and Diamond Dallas Page wins. Thank God. He's the only guy in the final that's like not shitty and is good enough to be in the world title picture. He wins the match, but there's controversy because he wins the match, but earlier in the match, he is thrown out of the ring and one foot touches the floor. And so, but the ref missed it. And so it's this whole big controversy that, hey, pal, you were eliminated. You shouldn't have won, which is so weird to me because I'm used to the WWE rules of 2 feet must touch the floor.
But we must differentiate.
This idea that different rules, different company, I get it, but it's kind of weird to be like, 1 foot and he's out. That's actually a rule here. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
So they strip him on Nitro the next night. They strip him of the WCW number 1 contendership and give it to Lex Luger for reasons, I guess. And DDP's irate about it. He's like, "This is bullshit. The ref didn't see anything. I wasn't eliminated." So the main event is the Giant. You might know him more as the Big Show. Is the WCW champion, and he beat the man called Sting.
Face paint boy.
Yes. So the Giant. Why is he called the Giant? Is because if we want to cycle back a little bit, to talk about the Dungeon of Doom, and I really don't want to, but I kind of have to explain his origins. The Dungeon of Doom was basically a bunch of cartoony fucks that they created to give Hulk Hogan guys to beat up. It was reviled at the time. And probably the best thing about it was the debut of the Giant. And they tried to play this off as the Giant was the kayfabe son of Andre the Giant.
That feels kind of yucky.
Yeah, we just kind of skip past it. But he wears the singlet, and that's about it, to be fair. He doesn't otherwise really act like Andre. Thank God.
Points for restraint. I mean, that's kind of funny because the singlet is something Big Show carried throughout his career.
That's true. Yeah, it is. He pretty much always wore like the singlet like that until he added a second strap, I think, later in his career. But yeah, that's where he got it from, is when he was the kayfabe son of Andre, so he wore the same singlet as Andre the Giant wore.
Okay.
And so he did end up breaking away from the Dungeon of Doom when it kind of collapsed because Hulk Hogan beat all of them up and made them look like goobers. So they're like, well, anyway.
I mean, kudos to a 90s audience for correctly recognizing that jobber squashes are shit.
It wasn't even jobber squashes. It was way too many competitive matches.
What? Oh, interesting. Okay. Weird, then. Just weird.
Yeah, but the Giant, in his first match on WCW TV, he beat Hulk Hogan to become WCW champion. And the less I talk about Halloween Havoc 95, the better right now.
Huh?
Spoiler warning, part of it involves a monster truck fight. And I'll say nothing else about that.
Oh, okay. That is a decision to make for a wrestling show. Indeed.
Yep.
Quite.
Anyway, the Giant is the champion, and then he's taking on the man called Sting. I'm going to reference that theme song a lot. He has a theme song right now this is like, the man called Sting. And it's really catchy, and it has fun lyrics like, he does this, he does that. He's quick as a bull, and he's big as a bull, and he's quick as a cat. It's great. I love it. It's such 90s cheese. It's amazing.
Oh my God, that sounds delightful.
Because right now he isn't emulating the Crow. Right now he is like the surfer bro Sting. He's still got face paint though, but he's like the cool good guy in WCW, man.
He's still got face paint though.
But it's all colorful. It's not black. He's not a moody emo yet. He's not a moody emo yet.
I'm very excited to see like color palette Sting.
Basically, yes. So the thing with Sting is that him and Lex Luger are bestie friends forever for realsies, and they are the tag team champions. Mm-hmm. Except nobody trusts Luger, and Luger's probably going to betray Sting. So the most enduring character trait about Sting is that he trusts everyone too easily and gets betrayed. Case in point, and I find that endearing. He sees the best in everyone, David. Anyway, so he's best friends with Luger, and he's constantly vouching for him, even though Luger, when he showed up in WCW, within 5 minutes of being there, turns on his friends to join the Dungeon of Doom. And then he left the Dungeon of Doom, and so Sting's like, it's all good now, right? We're all good. And everyone's like, dude, Luger is still going to turn on you. It's going to turn on you again because this is what he does. Yeah. This is the Sting and Luger relationship. Is that they are Sting always believes the best in Lex Luger, and Lex Luger kind of jumps back and forth between being an actual good friend and a no good backstabbing asshole.
Oh well, I mean, you know what? It's now justified for me to not like Lex Luger, so I'll take it. Yeah. So. There was a controversy in the championship match where Luger and Jimmy Hart manages the Giant right now, is that they were fighting over the megaphone and then it accidentally hits Sting. And that's a big reason why he loses. And
And so right now, all the babyface commentators are like, it was an accident. What are you talking about? And then you got the heel commentators being like, see, Luger's a traitor. He's going to turn on Sting any day.
Wait. Oh, wait. Oh, they're probably celebrating that, aren't they, though?
They are, of course.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Our sneaky son.
Yeah, so like they're the tag team champions, but it feels like any day now, it's just gonna... It's just a question of when, not if here.
Yeah. Well, it's prolonging the inevitable, or just, I guess, waiting for the inevitable.
So after I spent too long explaining the history of WCW and too long explaining WCW, where we're at now, let's talk about Scott Hall. Let's talk about the NWO, finally. So... the NWO idea basically came from right within 6 days of each other, Razor Ramon and Diesel, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, their contracts came up in WWF. And Eric Bischoff saw an opportunity to steal away two of WWF's biggest stars in '96. And so he offered both of them. This is some insane shit. I'm going to tell you this. Is first, he offered them $750,000 a year guaranteed.
Wow.
That is absurdly high money in wrestling at that point in time.
Yeah.
Especially because in the WWF, Vince McMahon believed fully in being like, I'm going to give you an opportunity. So in the WWF at this point in time, they had relatively low guaranteed money, but limitless potential to make more money.
Yeah.
Through, merchandising and working shows and blah, 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 blah.
It's interesting that WCW would go ahead with like big superstar payouts like that.
Their thought process was, we got Ted Turner's bankrolling us here. Let's go ahead and give the big stars the big money deals to steal them away.
I see. So, I mean, that's good and that's smart. It's just interesting because, like, despite, where WWE was in the mid 90s, they're still in, historically the financially stabler company. So WCW taking a risk like that sounds like big, big.
And, to be fair, it paid off. They signed away Hogan, Savage, Luger, Hall, and Nash, and it paid back dividends for them to do that.
Risk in a way.
It was a pretty big risk. And not only that, so $750,000 a year guaranteed. Maximum 180 dates was another big one. So, in WWF, these guys could be working 200, 250, 300 days a year. In WCW, they could work a maximum 180 days a year.
Half year.
For $750,000. And both of them saw this as like they're both were starting to raise families, and so the financial security and more time at home was a huge incentive for them. And then the infamous clause in both of their contracts, the favored nations clause.
Oh.
So the favored nations clause was, if anybody in WCW signed for more favorable terms than they currently had, so more than $750,000 a year, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were instantly given a pay raise to match that.
Whew.
In their contract, they would always be the most paid people in WCW, regardless of what anyone else's contract was.
Oh my! What? That's insane.
It is.
I mean, I get that they were kind of big, but like that's a level of that is. I don't even know if I want to call that a risk. That sounds like just a stick of dynamite waiting to explode.
Yeah, their contracts became albatrosses by the end. For that reason, is you got to give them a lot of money when you don't have money.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Just you wait till we get to Hogan's contract later but not Hogan's contract's stupid. At some point.
So to wrap my head around this, that's like that is like you are the main character of this company. Like not only in
In
like
terms of financial structure, yep.
yeah, I was gonna say not in terms of like traditional TV narrative, but we are copying to you guys as like the most like the VIPs. That's nuts. That is such a crazy thing to bank on. Wow.
Yep. You could argue it was a bit overpaying. The favored nations clause, you probably didn't need that to get them to sign. But like they took that deal, and it was very. And
Yeah,
I
why
can't
wouldn't
say
you?
that the NWO was a mistake.
No, it really wasn't, but oh my god. That yeah, a little overkill maybe, but oh, okay.
Yeah, and so to kind of wrap up our first half here, finally,
Oh.
is that this is the debut of Scott Hall, and I can't say anything more about it without kind of spoiling how this goes. So just know that that's what this episode is. This is the May 27th, 1996 episode of WCW Monday Nitro. To tell you where you can find this, you can find where we're watching it on peacock.tv, peacocktv.com, under the WWE section. You can also find it on the WWE network if you are outside of the US or you feel like trying to use a VPN. It is Peacock is $7.99 is $4.99 a month with ads, $9.99 a month without ads. Okay, I just lost connection there for a second, so I'm going to repeat that. Is Peacock TV is $4.99 a month with ads, $9.99 a month without ads, and the WWE Network is $9.99 a month plus the cost of the VPN. So many of them are free, some aren't. It's kind of up to you. As always, I must apologize for advertising things behind a paywall, but I can't help this. Yeah. You can search YouTube, Daily Motion, stuff like that. You can probably find the episode.
Or matches.
Yeah, or matches. You can absolutely find the Scott Hall debut. I can tell you that.
Yeah. That's the nice thing about this is at the very least, like even if like full episodes are hidden behind paywalls, we cover a lot of like matches that you could probably very easily find on YouTube.
Yeah, we cover really big stuff that you can easily at least find that part.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. Our longest first half in a while. It took me an hour.
Long time.
Covered a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, viewers. But yeah, we are gonna now go watch WCW.
Alrighty.
You guys in the back half. And we are back. Hey yo, we just watched the May 27th, 1996 episode of WCW Monday Nitro.
We didn't watch no WWE. We watched Nitro. Oh God. Okay. To kick this off, I would like to make a request, my dear co-host. Shake up the format a little. For two reasons. One, because our first half was rather long, and two, because I, as a kind of going back to my noobish roots, WCW is a foreign land to me. That we, instead of going quite as play-by-play as we usually do, I instead want to, like, while touching on, like, the stuff that happens in the episode, kind of broader examine, just off the bat, initial impressions about the ways in which this is a very different beast than the WWF was at the time.
Yeah, that's fair. It helps that honestly, not a lot happens on this episode except for the big thing. But I think it's an enjoyable episode otherwise. But that there's a very clear A plot here.
Yeah, it was. And what was it? I had this feeling while watching it, like there weren't huge standout moments for me in this episode, like when it came to the fighting, but every fight I watched, I was content with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like off the bat what I want to highlight. I mean, big difference from, what we've been talking about with like new generation of roughly this era is, oh my God, these matches, the Nitro here, has very much succeeded in making itself feel viscerally different than what WWF did at the time. It moves so quick, like it's so much more fast paced, and in a lot of ways, a lot of the hits, a lot of the works that happen here, I felt greater impact on a more consistent basis. These fights, for watching the WWF struggle week after week whenever we do the goddamn new generation, they make, wrestling in this era look effortless and make good wrestling in this era look effortless. Like I said, no huge big standout moments for me, but like just all throughout, I was like, I am solidly entertained by all of this.
Yeah, I think to that point, there be no jobber squashes around here.
No, there be none, and it was great.
Like WCW, that was very much a choice they decided to make, and that they were kind of the reason why WWF got away from it, is because you can't compete.
I mean,
WCW's throwing out all their big matchups. Like you can't have I don't want to say Diesel because he's literally leaving. Shawn Michaels versus Dipshitty McDoo on the other channel.
Yeah. Well, what's I mean, we've talked about this before, but in this episode, I saw firsthand, after we've discussed it so much, and theoretically, just how much, for as fraught as the history of WCW is, how much the decisions they made really did serve to give WWF a kick in the ass run for its money that made it like critically restructure everything it did to lead to the much more successful corporation that it is today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that immediately. The lack of jobber squashes, the more entertaining, the more consistently entertaining fights, even the story beats, they don't feel weirdly simultaneously nonchalant and dragged way too out like they do in WWF. There's a higher production value. The focus is put a lot on like a simpler but sleeker aesthetic than whatever the hell WWF is like trying to cobble together week after week. Just everything about it, it's immediately made clear why this was such big competition for, as brief as it was, for the WWF, and why it was kind of so integral in the latter's revival.
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's much more sleek. It's a simpler feel because WCW, I think, narratively is a simpler feel. They don't do the kind, and they never will, and they never really do. They don't really try to do the kind of like more grandiose soap opera-y stories that WWE tries to do.
No,
like there's a lot simpler of like, I'm a wrestler and I got personal beef with you, or I want a title because you're a piece of shit, or I want a title. Like, I think the weirdest plot line in this is the ongoing saga of Ric Flair stealing Savage's money.
Yeah,
via Elizabeth. It's probably the most like weird storyline in the whole episode.
But even then, that is communicated. Like this is what I'm really impressed with. They communicate that really clearly, because I could see how this would play out in WWF, and there would be like King's Court segments about it, and there would be like there'd be like so much, like even more like mugging for the camera, and the aesthetic would look more tacky because just WWE's aesthetic was bad, and it just feels like it feels so much messier on that show. But here, they do a good job at simply, effectively communicating what's going on without making it feel overwrought. And I almost wonder if this is a similar kind of phenomenon to what we talked about when we covered AEW Dynamite, back at the start of this podcast, is because it doesn't have like the years and years and years of history that WWF does. It doesn't feel compelled to just make all the stories compound always constantly. Here it has just a couple main threads that it's trying to run, and all the rest is like, yeah, just watch some goddamn fighting, you heathens.
Yeah, and this has been WCW style, by the way. Is even back later in the '80s, I think we talked about how like the in-ring wrestling in the '80s WWF left a lot to be desired.
Mm-hmm. At least for our modern sensibilities.
Yeah, but if you I think if you go back to other stuff in this era, JCP included, like stuff holds up a lot better because that was more focused on wrestling. Because that's what this is.
Mm-hmm. And what's wild about it too is in terms of the way that the fighting is put on. God, WCW is almost ahead of its time because some of these matches, it feels like you could turn you could turn these wrestlers into like, modern renditions or just like, modern wrestlers that exist. You could like swap out the wrestlers here for like, for your Roman Reignses and what have you. And if you kept all else equal, it wouldn't feel too out of place on a Raw episode in 2021. The pace is there. And the effective hits are there. And the sleekness is there. Something that WWF would struggle to kind of find in full for a long time. Like even through like the 90s, the late 90s, the Attitude Era, when they got really big, that pace still wasn't always there. The WWF always felt like it was a little slower in its execution of work. And I don't know why that is. Like what je ne sais quoi is at play here. But that impressed me. Like, oh my God, this feels ahead of its time physically.
Oh yeah, really great in-ring work on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff had time to be good. Like we talked about last time we were in the Attitude Era. Like there was like one match longer than 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
This match had 3 matches longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah, and none of them felt rushed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the ironic thing here is WWE, WWF, whichever they are in whatever time period, they tend to, and this is less so in the modern era, but they tend to have shorter matches because they like to cram a lot into their card. Despite the fastness of that, the how quickly the matches last, there's this like sometimes like slightly more sluggish feeling to the fights, whereas here they're a lot longer, but that pace is kept up pretty much throughout, aside from the times where they're deliberately trying to interrupt that pace.
Yeah.
Which, again, say what you want for what a mess this company was behind the scenes. Someone there really knew what they were doing with putting fake fighting on air.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that in every match. All of a sudden, I'm not unimpressed with Lex Luger. He's putting out good work. The lame gimmicks I don't care about
on
because
the
they're
Lex
fighting well.
Express.
Yeah, the lame, and I mean it helps that he's not so much America. The lame gimmicks I don't care about as much because they all fight well. Ric Flair. Now I immediately understand why everyone like loves Ric Flair. He was a revelation. Both in how he acted as a character and in ring. Like clearly a lot of talent there.
And this is like past his peak Flair.
Really?
By 96, he was in that mode of like play. He's if he was a rock band, he's in the I'm playing the hits mode.
You could have fooled me.
Yeah, the 70s and 80s was Flair's peak as an in-ring performer.
Well, then all the more credit to his longevity. Um, um, Sting really impressed me, and I know Sting's good. I've never seen a Sting thing ever. Um, Sting, it feels kind of weird to say Sting feels like he could be a modern wrestler because he literally is. But Sting Sting clearly like is one of those who can hold his own with the greats. Baby Big Show was so cool to watch. Just everything that was presented here, um, felt felt a satisfying watch. That's what I will term this experience here. Like, there were certainly plenty of things in this episode I groaned at, just because I groaned so hard at so many of the like 90s sensibilities of these sorts of things. But like, when you get down to the nuts and bolts of what was going on there, satisfaction is the word that comes to mind.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I agree with all your points. There is a, Flair is amazing, even by '96. You got Sting is incredible, and honestly, I love Surfer Sting. He's kind of
forgotten. So much fun.
He's kind of forgotten about because like emo boy Sting is gonna blow up real hard, but. And he's never really gone back to being like Surfer Bro. But Surfer Bro Sting is a very fun, like, just white meat good guy.
He seems like a delight. And again, he's not brought down by a lot of weird baggage. They just do a good job at presenting him straightforward. They play so much of this straightforward, and shocker, wow, that's such a key to making this like really work. Is like, you don't need to do 7 layers of bullshit. You can just play it straight and it's fine. Well, as straight as like pro wrestlers will play it, but
for Sting, the only level of bullshit is his ongoing troubles with Luger and whether he can be trusted and whether Luger can be trusted.
Yeah, but that's such a simplistic
fucking up.
That's such a simple premise. That's such a simple premise, and again, not something that's too harped on. They touch on it, and that's that. And we'll see how it continues to play out, because they just do little things. Again, clear, effective communication. Well, so then since you're obviously far more familiar with this kind of whole shebang than I am, what do you think it was? Like, what was in the water at WCW that kind of led to this ability to so effectively differentiate themselves from WWF and what they presented?
I mean, I would probably I think that Eric Bischoff was a huge creative proponent, and a lot of this I think is a lot of the in-ring stuff is very much, I think, like a progression of what WCW already was doing, in that it was already a really good company in-ring. That really was never a problem.
Yeah.
It was always, you got a guy at the ship who doesn't always know what they're doing.
Doesn't know the bow from the stern. Yeah.
Right. And so now you got a guy who's focused. He does help a lot. Kevin Sullivan, I think, is also a pretty smart booker at this point in time, because he's making a lot of these matches too. And I just think Bischoff had a clear vision of like what he wanted WCW to look like, and this is what he wanted it to look like.
Yeah. I mean that's fair. And I mean, kudos to him on following through. Like, it sounds so simple when you say it like that, but
it's so hard because like, first of all, you have to have this kind of vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's doing like the stuff he was doing was a little weird. I guess I think that he was always TV PG. It wasn't truly PG-13, but it was like more on the edge of that than WWF ever does. And so he's got that idea, and you're like, I don't know, Eric, we've never wrestling has always been biggest as a family thing for the kids and all that. And, bringing in these like technically gifted or high-flyingly proficient talents from all over the world and just kind of throwing them on TV and trusting that your audience is going to buy into it.
Well, I have to wonder too, like, I like thinking about this, and they're presenting as more gritty and for adults, but it doesn't manifest in some like cringe lord 90s way. Like, we're not on some like Vince Russo shit here. This is, I almost wonder if part of the kind of magic here is it doesn't feel like pandering, because sometimes that's really what it feels like WWF did. And don't get me wrong, WCW fell into some of these traps too, like with, you know, how they're playing up Hogan and yada yada yada. But like with the main things we're focusing on, because they don't take more adult to be let's do edgy bullshit. They take adult to be
we got to start swearing and showing the boobs.
Yeah, no, they take adult to be let's treat this as if it were like, you know, a grown-ups like legitimate sports show sort of thing. Again, God, it sounds so simple and obvious when I say it out loud, but the fact that it wasn't in that era is what makes this kind of so mind-blowing, is that they unlocked this seemingly very simple formula for success in a time when people were just floundering around not even knowing where to find the damn key.
Yeah, I would definitely. And I think you continue.
No, it just feels like they're really like respecting their audience and not feeling the need to like be like, we got to dangle, you know, 300 different shinies in front of them at the same time to keep their focus.
Yeah. But I think they did dangle one shiny in front of us here.
Well, yes.
Which of course is the unnamed Scott Hall.
Ha.
Which I want to.
Who's totally not Razor Ramon, guys? Don't call him Razor Ramon. We promise it's not Razor Ramon.
Right. So I think now that I was coy about it in the first half because I feel like you needed to just experience what the debut was.
Yeah.
And honestly, this was such a stroke of. I feel like the whole thing was just amazing stroke of genius in how it was presented.
Absolutely.
Is that so? What happens is we're having a match between the Mauler and Steve Dahl. No, you shouldn't care about either of them. They're there to have an excuse for something to be happening when Scott Hall interferes, because that's the big thing. These early episodes of the NWO's birth really leans into the idea that it's not Scott Hall, it's Razor Ramon that showed up.
Yeah,
they don't want you to believe that Scott Hall was released from his contract in WCW, in WWF, and he signed with the WCW, and now he's wrestling for them. They want you to believe that Razor Ramon of WWF invaded WCW for the sole purpose of causing chaos, of invading the show, starting a war, Chico.
And
it's
you need to include the toothpick there.
Through the toothpick.
Yeah.
And it starts with the way he first shows up, when he's just walking through the crowd and jumps the barricade and just walks into the ring. You know, no music, no introduction. He's not dressed to wrestle. Everyone's just like, what the hell? The announcers are like, what is this guy doing here?
Yep.
Like, they really sell the idea that this guy isn't supposed to be here. What is happening? The match abruptly ends. Like, the battle between two guys I don't care about.
Yeah.
It kind of ends. Like, they both just leave because they don't know what to do. Some dude who's not from this company just showed up.
Not remotely.
So, like, what are we going to do? And then he cuts this very famous, promo of, you know who I am. But you don't know why I'm here. And he references the WWF's hilariously stupid skits, trying to make fun of WCW as Ted Turner he doesn't know how to do anything except buy old stuff. And that Hogan and Savage and the like are just a bunch of geriatrics out there. He calls for Billionaire Ted, the Nacho Man, Scheme Gene, Which I'm going to be on. We're kind of spoiling this part of the journey, but I feel like almost everyone who knows this story already knows it. So it's hard to not already know where this story builds to.
Yeah, I mean it's obvious, right?
But it's interesting that like he runs down the people and he doesn't mention the huckster, which was the Hogan joke. And so your first hint at who the third man is, because he runs down all the old dudes that they made fun of, and with Billionaire Ted, but he doesn't say Hogan.
Mm-mm.
He doesn't make fun of him. And so he ends with the line of, "You want a war? You got it." And he really plays up because the idea is that, you know, the Monday Night Wars, the ratings war. Like they play him perfectly as this invading force. Always very careful to not say his name because they walk that very thin line. And next time we're here, I'll talk more about this. But they walk this very thin line of making him so obviously Razor Ramon. But they know that's a violation of trademarks. So we're just gonna not name him and say that that's pure coincidence. Like legal, in the legal realm, they're like, what? What? No, that's not Razor.
I mean, they have a trademark on the name. They don't have a trademark on the depiction of a weird Scarface knockoff.
You see, that's the legal argument of confusing the market.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're gonna be like, no, he's not Razor Ramon. He's Scott.
He's Scott Hall.
We haven't said on TV he's Scott Hall, but it's Scott Hall.
It's Scott Hall. Yeah, don't worry about it, guys. Yeah, he's totally not Razor. We promise.
Yeah, and then but you know they spend the whole rest of the episode after he shows up in about the quarter way point of the show, just being like, you may have heard that an outsider or something to that effect has shown up on our TV and attacked us, and we want to apologize to the viewer for his comments, and especially when Bischoff gets there, because he also calls out Eric Bischoff, calling him a Ken doll wannabe. And once Bischoff gets in the booth, now he's like, well, you know, he can say whatever he wants about me. I'm right here. He can talk to me face to face if he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the show, as they're closing off, he does come back. And he reiterates a lot of his same points, but he also is clear to emphasize we. He makes sure that everybody knows he's not alone.
Mm-mm.
He's got more buddies coming.
This is only the beginning.
And it's implied to be 3 because he's like, you can tell Billionaire Ted to bring 3 of his best, and we'll settle it in the ring.
Absolutely.
Just fantastic. Fantastic scripting here and just direction of like how to portray this character and the way that you're trying to do it. Like fantastic work.
I mean, yeah, you have summed this up so beautifully in how effective this was. Like I could tell watching that promo play out. I was like, "Oh, this is a famous promo, isn't it?" It had that feel to it. It had that feel to it, right? And I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I think you mentioned kind of how they brought him in, and I kind of had this moment with it where I'm watching the match and I noticed in the background there's a commotion in the audience, and I'm not entirely sure because I'm like, you know, I don't know what's going on here. Is there some dude walking down? Why are a lot of people standing up? And I'm like, oh, there must just be some weird shit going on with audience member. But then dude keeps going, and then he jumps the barrier, and then he starts coming closer. I'm like, oh my, wait, I know that face. So it was this really cool moment. If you weren't expecting it, if you didn't know to look for it, like I wasn't, all of a sudden, they do a good job at like kind of throwing you for a loop. And like, you know, if you take more than 2 seconds to think about it, of course it's obvious that like he wouldn't be showing up here if he were, you know, if he were still on WWS payroll. But they set the scene so well in that kind of like jarring way that you don't like, either you don't take the time to think about it or it's so forgivable because like they again simply, clearly, effectively communicate something about the situation to their audience without like beating it down on you. Here is not Razor Ramon, and he has decided to storm the stage, and he wants war, and that's what we get. And like obviously, again, we know what this leads to. We know this leads to New World Order and Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan heel turn. But even knowing that, I can so appreciate like the very deliberate ominousness with which this is done. Like you said, the writing was brilliant. It is. The way this was scripted was very well done. The little hints they drop, the way they have him do his entrance, the way they have him show up again at the end. It's all done in a way that you feel that like lingering presence, throughout the episode after he first shows up. And they make sure to pay it off. So it's not just a one-time thing. They hammer home, this is going to be something important. Pay attention to it. But on top of that, I really have to give credit to Scott Hall too for his performance here. He doesn't oversell it. He is blunt in what he says. He is direct and everything. But he doesn't go like, this is war. He doesn't get super angry. He doesn't get aggro. He doesn't freak out. He doesn't monologue for way too long. He delivers a simple, clear message in a calm, deliberate, but direct, and coy and threatening tone. And that adds so much to the experience too, because from a performance side, he takes the material that he's given, and delivers it expertly, which is not a thing I would think to say about Razor Ramon up to this point. But he hopped on that mic. I'm like, damn, he did be good on that mic though. And one other thought I had while you were talking about this, the way this is kind of, him throwing out kind of like a work shoot mockery of the company, this is almost like a proto pipe bomb promo in some way. And in a way, the pipe bomb promo with a conclusion that's not going to feel, wheel spinny and dumb. So that is kind of a cool little bit of history too, of like, after we spent a whole summer with Punk, all of a sudden we kind of see its DNA flowing out in a kind of ancestor, as it were.
And I definitely think I agree with you in that kind of proto pipe bomb kind of thing. I think that like it's trying to go for the same kind of vibe that like I've seen it compared to. I think I liken a lot of wrestling to being, especially like hot wrestling, to being a lot like a magician's act, in that like everyone knows it's fake, right? Like nobody really believes that like you're doing real magic here. But then you're in that moment and you see him do that trick and you're like, holy shit, that's real though.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think that like the best work shoots can give that similar effect of like, everything, that wrestling is fake, right? But this thing with Scott Hall though, that's real. Like this is a real invasion because he makes you believe that this is real.
Yeah.
The way he acts, the what he says, what he does makes you believe that like this isn't just some like hokey scripted wrestling crap. This is legit.
And it's funny because this is clearly the most tightly scripted thing on this episode, and is going to be a tightly scripted, ginormous freaking arc. But because the scripting, despite how like controlled it was, the fact that it was tight, the fact that they knew what they were doing, they had plans, they clearly had plans. The way it manifests does not feel like it's forced, does not feel like it's artificial, it does not feel like reading lines off a script. and because they've given it that feeling of with the tightness of the script, they're then able to get away with those little things of dropping those little hints that and having those little like subtextual things that now 30 25 years later is insanely delicious for people like us to step back and analyze. Oh my God, look at everything they did. Because this isn't something that the average wrestling viewer of the time was going to notice. They weren't going to look back right on the first Scott Hall promo and be like, oh, the lack of mentioning Hulk was clear foreshadowing. Aha. But the fact that they did that, despite that, the little things, your brain, you may not have noticed it, but your brain does. Like, that shows the level of care they put into this, and I think speaks to, oh my God, why the New World Order became the single biggest thing on wrestling TV in that era.
Mm-hmm. Like, it was this was a revelation of a promo, and
because I'm assuming nothing like this had really been done before.
Not like this, no. I can't think of any examples of this kind of this kind of thing, this pseudo invasion angle.
Yeah,
invasion angles have happened before, but those are legitimately between two companies. It's not, you're not trying to pretend that this is happening, and you're crafting a crossover invasion arc out of nothing.
Yeah, or even just like some weird, twisty, kind of like unexpected work shoot, meta commentary sort of thing. Like this, I feel like this is, again, with my limited knowledge of history, I'm gonna take a guess that I feel pretty confident in, that this is going a few layers deep than the normal big ginormous story fare.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So yeah, we have Scott Hall is here, not Razor Ramon. Wink, wink, wink.
Yeah,
and we know he's bringing more.
Yeah, and this is going to be our arc to follow through. Yeah, and this is the arc we now get to follow for the rest of our time in WCW, which is so exciting. Because here's the thing for me, to get kind of meta about our show, is that WCW, the NWA, the NWO, these have been like clouds that have been hanging over our show pretty much since day one. Not the very first episode, but as soon as we first talked about Attitude Era, Austin was giving the rundown on some of this. And so we've now finally reached it. And for me, what's exciting is it's been this background character just waiting to pop out, and now that we're here and now that we're going to be finally doing this thing, I feel like there's a piece of the puzzle that's going to fall into place over the course of our arc. There we have this kind of built up wrestling history that we've created by formatting the show like a little sampler platter, and exploring all these different eras all throughout time. But there's this large chunk that's not there, this large chunk of context that up until now for me has been totally inaccessible, because it's the NWO, because it's WCW. And so personally, this is really exciting to now get to dig into and finally fill in the rest of that context. So every influence that it's clearly had on the rest of wrestling history, despite its relatively short-lived tenure on air, every ripple effect now is going to make so much more sense. And I think that's what's going to be really exciting about this era.
Yeah, and I'm going to be excited to kind of experience it myself. I've never really gone back and watched WCW, so I know the history because I like to read into that kind of stuff, but I've never really watched WCW era, circa any era. So this is a new experience for me, not even if I already kind of know the plot beats.
Yeah, I think we're in for a hell of a ride here. I could not be I am definitely looking forward to this. This is definitely a breath of fresh air. Post and that's the other thing too is like is this being our replacement for the Attitude Era is really fun because oh god, one more time. WCW commissioner, please.
Eric Bischoff?
Eric Bischoff. He almost feels in his writing like an anti-Vince Russo, where Russo loved to go like super convoluted and super like almost panderingly grim, dark, gritty, whatever. And Bischoff's ethos seems to be much more let's craft a straightforward story and figure out the exact ways to pull it off in a controlled environment to make it feel dynamic and exciting and authentic. So that's cool. This is such a I think this is going to be a wonderful breath of fresh air after the many frustrating excesses, I'll say, of the Attitude Era. For as much good things I had to say about the Attitude Era.
Speaking of excesses, Ric Flair, woo!
Ric Flair, woo!
Yeah, so I guess we can just kind of like quickly run down through everything else that happened here.
Yeah.
Is we got, Arn Anderson and Ric Flair beating the American males.
Extremely generic name. I gotta say, extremely generic name. I was pleasantly surprised with their work.
Yeah, big Marcus Bagwell and Scotty Riggs are all right.
They don't look like they'd be like particularly engaging wrestlers. No, they were good. They were good. They held their own against legend Ric Flair. To even past his prime legend Ric Flair, but still nonetheless legend. So yeah, that was a pleasant surprise, and was one of the first things that clued me into. I think this is going to be good. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it was the match where they tried their hardest, but the Four Horsemen like to cheat, and they like to cheat a lot.
Four surrounded in gigantic air quotes.
Woman helping Ric Flair pick up the dub.
Oh, and heel Miss Elizabeth is so satisfying for me to see. Now, I will say she's still basically a sexy lamp, but it's just so nice to see her not like being like a simp for Randy Savage's toxic bullshit that I don't even care. It's just so refreshing and everything I wanted.
She got to say words.
She got to say words. More, please.
And then it ends with Flair going absolutely mad.
Yeah,
as he's wont to do.
Yeah,
doing promos.
He went off. And his tag team partner sounds a weird amount like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I noted that was fun.
Good old Arn Anderson. Yeah, and then you got Diamond Dallas Page and Sergeant Craig Pittman in a quick one.
Quick, little quickie. Again, they were both good. Pleasantly surprised by that.
Hit him with the Diamond Cutter for the W.
Yeah.
Before the World Heavyweight title match, Shark had a backstage interview.
He just screamed a lot.
A lot of shouty boy.
And good old Gene, who I guess they even poached WWF's commentators. Gene looked very done with him, which was great. I love Gene's "I'm done with you" face.
Yeah, and Shark just yelling about how he's been kicked out of the Dungeon of Doom, and now I'm mad about it.
Goofy.
And then the Giant kind of just beats the shit out of him.
Which is awesome. Oh my god, I love Big Show. Oh my god, and Big Show has hair. Big Show with hair. This is beautiful. This is art. He's so great.
Yeah, it must be a weird time for you because Big Show's been bald for so long.
I know. I made the comment to Austin as somebody who is rather a fan of having flowing locks myself. People like Big Show who have long hair and then just yeet all of it make me very concerned that one day I'm going to smash my head into a brick wall and all of a sudden decide, you know what, I don't need hair anymore and just go totally bald. And God, I hope that never happens. See, I'm not offering great technical analysis here. Big Show makes me happy. I enjoy him. Oh! I did note something cool that while we were watching that I pointed out to Austin is they show Big Show was
He dumped Luger through the table. He slammed Luger.
Yeah, he's slamming Luger through some tables, and it was kind of a fun parallel to his like Mark Henry feud, where Mark Henry would just show up and just yeet people through tables in the audience to like to fuck with Big Show and get his attention. So I don't know if like them doing that with the Mark Henry feud was intentional. But if it was, great little Easter egg, guys. If it wasn't, well, it's still a fun like parallel to notice with the power of retrospect anyway.
Yeah, so Giant gets the win, and then big old Bubba Rogers shows up and starts shaving Shark's hair, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that was a thing.
I don't know why.
Some Samson Delilah shit going on, maybe? I don't know.
Then we get Lex Luger versus Max. That's with two X's, because he's extreme!
Max felt like he should have been a jobber, but then he was good.
Yes. He wrestled Luger longer than the Giant wrestled Shark.
Yeah, he put up a fight. Now, what was stupid here was Luger spends a majority of that match getting dicked on, and then at the last second, he does a torture rack, and all of a sudden, like, gets the dub. Don't know.
Waka, babyface comeback.
Oh god. So yeah, that was certainly interesting. Not the most narratively sound, but whatever. Everything else in this episode was so good, I'll overlook it.
Yeah, and then Luger gives an interview after the fact, and Gene's like, is he kind of pushes him on the whole like you basically got you kind of, it's kind of weird how you got this title match with the Giant, right? Like they disqualified DDP, and then they just kind of handed it to you without you doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Luger's like, well, I don't make the matches, so what do you know?
Yeah.
Kind of being a dick about it.
Yeah, a little bit. But it's Luger, so welcome to what do you expect? Par for the course.
He's an untrustworthy dick.
Anti-hero, baby.
Bobby Walker and Brad Armstrong. I made fun of Bobby Walker for having the nickname Hard Work.
Yeah,
that's the best thing you can come up with, huh?
Bobby Walker was interesting to watch in this one because he had a couple attempts at like jumping up to the top rope and then just like kind of failed both times.
Had to redo it a little bit.
Yeah,
multiple times.
I mean, he regained his balance both times, which is impressive. Like if I attempted to do that and failed, I'd just face first on the mat.
Yeah, I'd be dead.
So, so his recoveries were cool, and it was kind of cool to see like on-air botches like that. That's not something we get to see a whole lot, and it almost feels like a treat in some ways. But he recovered from it well and still put out a good match overall, and he got the dub, right?
Yeah, he did. He beat old Brad.
Hey, he put in the hard work. I'm so sorry.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah.
Yes. Then in a technical match, we get Lord Steven Regal.
Yeah.
And Alex Wright. Good old Das Wunderkind.
Yeah, that was another surprisingly good. I would not imagine the pompous British asshole character to be a really engaging wrestler to watch because, if that were in WWF, it feels like it'd be really stupid. But now, here, damn.
Regal is a legend.
Damn, for good reason.
How good he is.
And the Wunderkind, the Wunderkid got slapped around a lot of the time, but he still, put up a good fight. What was interesting in this one is Regal getting Wunderkind into like an STF, and I guess we're not allowed to really make fun of Cena for it anymore because no matter what, STF looks bad.
Oh, Steiner and Sting is the one where it's really bad.
Oh, Steiner and Sting is never mind. I'll shut up.
But you get him in like a headlock and submission of a kind.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he starts open hand palm slapping him across the head while he's doing it.
He was really dedicated to getting Wunderkind into like a submission for this one, not a pinfall. He was really going for that submission, and that was kind of a cool, just little touches to like divvy up matches to differentiate matches, kind of give each one a distinct feel. So Regal's drive for making Wunderkind submit was interesting, fun place to see the match taken. And it was, I got a nice laugh too, because like he finally gets Wunderkind to submit, and like just like two kids in the audience stand up and start cheering.
And they call it after that because he gets a post match promo to kind of just rag on the roster. He sets it's fun because Gene, excuse me, sets him up to do another anti-America promo, and I'm like, oh god,
oh yeah, here we go.
But then he doesn't take that bait, and instead just shit talks like the other top guys in the company who just happen to be American. He calls the Giant like an escapee from Barney and Barney and Balaam.
Barnum and Bailey.
That
Circus,
Barnum and Bailey. He calls Sting a painted up clown freak. Like he just goes all in on how he is the respectable one around here, and he's going to become the world champion so that you people have someone you can respect as champion.
Okay, but am I crazy? It's kind of felt like the audience was kind of positively receptive to it. Am I crazy? I thought I saw that. I thought I noticed that. They seemed weirdly into it.
Yeah, they seemed a little bit into it, and they had to try to play that off of Gene being like, some people are into you for some reason, I don't know.
So
and Regal has to kind of like shit talk them, even though they like him, because that's the heel to do.
But people that is British this time.
Him, like yelling at how it's bloody WCW and calling people sunshine. Like, oh man, it's good to know that William Regal's like vocabulary has never changed.
I mean, it's a good. I like hearing people angrily like insult other people by backhandedly calling them sunshine. So I'll take it. I think that's fun and whimsical. You do you, Regal. Live your best life.
Doing great. And then in our main event, we get Scott Steiner and the man called Sting.
Scott Steiner versus Sting. Dang, like I said, Sting's great. Oh my God, Sting's great. Sting's a ton of fun. I really want to like watch his AEW stuff now. I make sure to catch him on Raw, or no, not Raw, Dynamite.
I mean, he was on Raw for a second.
He was on Raw for a hot second.
Wasn't a great run, gonna be honest.
Yeah, he was on Raw for a hot second. But yeah. Either way, get him on Dynamite and hear that, or see that good work, because yeah, he was a ton of fun. Like he was just great to watch, and Steiner was really good too. Obviously, Steiner's another like big boy that's gone on to have a really like long career for good reason. The two of them together in ring, just did a fabulous job playing off each other the whole time. It was a tense match, but it was a well-paced match. Everything about it was well done. There's a lot of variety. Just I could go on.
Oh yeah, and I love the story of if it's a nice friendly competition between baby faces, and then Luger shows up to support Sting, which brings Rick out in his finest casual wear, I guess.
Yep.
And then like they're like starting to suplex each other out of the ring, and Steiner's about to like slam Sting on concrete, and then suddenly Luger just starts throwing hands and turning this into a heated fight when it was not one until he decided to make it one. And they match, it kind of ends up in like it gets thrown out. You know, they all four of them start trying to punch each other and have to get restrained by the various locker room.
Beautiful little messy ending that I actually didn't even mind all that much. For as much as I've rolled against them in the future, this one was like, all right, that was fun. I'll give it to you. It has some narrative purpose.
Yeah,
Vince Russo
continues this story of Luger being clearly a snake.
Yeah, I mean. And what's cool about that little stroke too at the end is like it's so obviously self-serving for Luger to turn into like a chaos throw hands match. But I could also see like where in kayfabe that would confuse poor Sting, because like it ostensibly on the surface is like, I'm here to support you, buddy. This guy was gonna do bad things to you, and I'm gonna help you. So I can see why poor naive little like happy Sting is like.
It's like, this is fine. Everything is fine.
Yeah. So again, nice little detail on their part. Good scripting. Like, oh god, I should never be this impressed with like seeing just like, you know, baseline good writing in wrestling shows, but here we are. But yeah, you guys did it. I feel, you know, relatively compelled by this story. Good job.
Yeah. So as we wrap up here, you know, we our first time in good old WCW. And I think it was a pretty fun time.
Me too. And like I said, I'm just really excited for so many reasons keep pushing forward into this. Again, that final puzzle piece. It's time.
Yep. But for now, next time on the Noobs and Knockouts Pod. David, 30 episodes now. We've seen a lot of wrestling, and, we've seen a lot of good and a lot of bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to shake things up a little bit. I want to just show off a little women's wrestling. And up next will be our NXT women's plotline. In 2 weeks, next week, we are watching the worst women's wrestling I can find on YouTube. What happens when your face, I loved it. It's exactly what I wanted. What happens when a guy wins a jackpot lottery and decides to spend it on making a wrestling show? Wrestlicious next week.
Oh, you piece of shit. Oh no. Oh, you motherfucker. You played me. Oh, he knows. The listeners at home, he knows how long I've been waiting for this, how deeply I've desired good women's wrestling, and he dangled it like a little carrot in front of me, promising me, assuring me that we would finally come to our time of Happy David watching some really hot ladies do some really good wrestling, and I was gonna be like, damn, I am both attracted to all of these women and very respect all of the very good wrestling prowess that they get to show off, and it's not just dumb, stupid fitness model, fake wrestling, hair pull, cat fight, whatever. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be really good. And he was like, and he dangled that in front of my face, and he's pulling it away for one last little laugh before he lets me have my good, happy fun. Oh,
excellent. I believe it's time to hit the plugs.
Oh, you motherfucker. Okay. Oh, my friends, my dear friends, thank you so much for joining us once again on the Noobs and Knockouts podcast. For our returning listeners, welcome back. We are always so honored to have you welcome us into your eardrums to join us on this journey of the wild, wacky world of pro wrestling. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope you continue to join us. We hope you've enjoyed your first time. We guarantee if you stick around, you'll enjoy all the times to come as well. If you would like to continue joining us and you're not entirely sure how to do so, not to worry, my friends. I can tell you, one, you can follow us on YouTube, the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast. You hit subscribe, you ring that bell, all that sweet engagement, beautiful. You can also find us on 3 of the best places to listen to your podcast, and that would be on Spotify, on Apple, on Google. Give us follows, give us ratings, tell the algorithm that yes, we are a much good show that more people should be listening to. You can also follow our socials. We are on Twitter at Noobs and Knox Pod. That's Noobs, the letter N, Knox Pod, because Twitter is, a big fan of its character limits. We like to post memes there. We interact with the broader wrestling fandom at large. We will, just talk about different things that are happening in the world of wrestling. We post whenever we drop a new episode. And Austin is a super god of wrestling content who live tweets his wrestling watching. My friend, what's on the schedule coming up?
All right. As always, we are following AEW Dynamite live every week. It's the only wrestling show I consistently watch live, and let's go ahead and monetize everything I ever watch.
Yes.
So, right now, it is in this sucky time period where it keeps getting preempted for NBA basketball. So, for the time being, for the rest of the month, we will be seeing AEW Dynamite live on Friday nights on TNT at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I keep up with the AEW Impact and WWE pay-per-views enough to watch them. So, coming up, happening the day this drops will be NXT TakeOver in your house, because there's nothing more fun than having the NXT do a nostalgia trip of new generation era branding. I'm kind of being sarcastic there. It is kind of fun.
Okay.
So right now the matches we have 4 matches on the card. We have not seen we are taping this before this week's NXT. They could add more, but right now we have a fatal 5-way for the NXT Championship as Spooky MMA Boy Karrion Kross, the champion, must defend against Kyle O'Reilly, Cool Air Guitar Man, Adam Cole, who is just the bestest wrestler ever, Johnny Gargano, who has completely surrounded himself in like a weird, he has surrounded himself with yes people. He is part of the way. This is the Gargano way. And Pete Dunne, who is a British man who likes to break fingers. He's a nice person.
Oh, that is brutal. Very brutal.
Then we get Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight. Cameron Grimes, who is the newest member of the Nove Riche because he hit it big on GameSpot Stonks. However,
shit.
This has now got him cross paths with the $1 Million Man himself, Ted DiBiase.
He's still around.
And now LA Knight, yeah, dummy, yeah, also wants some of that sweet, sweet DiBiase cash. So now we have Cameron Grimes versus LA Knight. Winner is basically the surrogate son of Ted DiBiase.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Mercedes Martinez versus Xia Li. Just gonna be two hard-hitting ladies doing some hard-hitting wrestling. And then a singles match for the NXT Women's Championship. Raquel Gonzalez, the champ, the biggest girl on the block. She's big and strong. She will throw people around. And then Ember Moon, who does weird cosplay stuff and is also likes to do a stunner, but from the top rope. So it especially hurts her butt. And we're all kind of waiting on the day where Raquel Gonzalez's best friend Dakota Kai turns on her because she is a real Luger of this to Raquel's thing right now.
I was gonna say that sounds like a pretty familiar trope that's happening there.
Yes, and then of course the next week after that will be Hell in a Cell in WWE, and right now we have 3 matches on the card. Still, one of Monday Night Raw is airing as we're taping this right now, but we currently have a Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre in a last chance Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Championship. If McIntyre loses, he's done. He doesn't get any more shots at the WWE title. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's title, and Bianca Belair versus Bayley for the SmackDown Women's title.
Ooh, that sounds good.
That is what is coming up this month.
Very nice. Beautiful. So be sure to check that out. Austin posts very funny things and also very insightful things whenever he watches. It is good shit. You can also email us at our Gmail address. That's noobsandknockoutspod@gmail.com. That's noobs, the word and this time, knockoutspod@gmail.com. Just say hi to us, leave us suggestions, recommendations, things you like about the show, things you don't. Just tell us how beautiful and wonderful and sexy our voices are, all that good stuff. We just love to hear from people. Just say hi and we'll say hi back. We love that stuff. And finally, you can follow us on our Patreon. $1 a month gets you early access to episodes and a shout out at the end of each episode.
Yep. And right before we go, just going to do a quick shout out to, once again, Invasion from Planet WrestleTopia's Kickstarter to turn this mini-series into a print edition. It is running till June 24th. You still got a couple of weeks to get in there.
Best comic ever.
It is a fantastic comic. They got plenty of goodies in the reward tiers to get you to sign on. I personally dropped $50 on the Kickstarter.
I dropped 35, I think.
Mm-hmm. So you get in there now and help get that book to print because I want to own a really pretty copy.
Me too.
In-person book of the book.
Hype.
Yep. And so then, see until next week. See you guys.